JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. We're watching a clip of The Herd with Colin Cowherd talking about Mac Jones and the Patriots. We have not been talking about him that much throughout the season, honestly. I feel like a lot of people just said whatever to the Patriots, and especially with the offseason. But I guess it's being reported that the Patriots want to stockpile draft picks. So apparently they might be kind of hanging on to Mac Jones. Before we let the clip roll, just my first thoughts on this real fast is that I could see the logic that when you have a new coach and you have, you already came off a disaster year, so you're drafting at a higher level and you're maybe in a position to kind of really build in the draft. I don't think it's the worst plan, because they don't have this collection of team of players where it's like, we have to win, or, oh my God, half our team is young, the other half is like, in their prime, and they only have a couple more years. We really got, we're wasting the potential of some of these players. The Patriots are in not really that stage. In a lot of ways, and this is not a perfect example comparison, but not unlike where the Packers are, or at least were, where this really young team, they drafted a lot of great players. They're developing these players. They let go of the older players, both, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, and a couple of other old guys who are pretty much technically should be retired. And so there is not that rush of being like, oh my God, we got to get something. Especially, let's say, if Jordan Love wasn't that great, you wouldn't be like, we have to make a big splash play and try to get, whoever's available. There's not really a lot of great splash quarterbacks available, but we're going to make a big play to try to get Dak Prescott. Or, this is going to be funny, Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers was never a Packer and he was on a Jet, and they're saying, we got to get an Aaron Rodgers right now to bring him over to Green Bay to make this team legit. It's like, no, we can take a beat here. These players are still developing. They're still growing. They're still maturing. It's okay. And I feel as though that is not a terrible place for the Patriots to be in, to be like, you know what, let's rebuild this team. We have some new, not necessarily new blood in here, but we have, a newish vision. Like, let's just take this day by day. Let's not rush this process, because that's how you get in trouble. So the Denver Broncos did, okay? They didn't build their team. They went like, oh my God, we need this quarterback. Let me get Russell Wilson. They did that, and it's a disaster. I'm not so sure what's so redeemable about the Broncos. And same thing with Tampa Bay, okay? They went out and got Baker Mayfield, which I understand why. But really ask yourself, would it have been better for them to just be terrible that last season and draft number 1 and get Caleb Williams? If you're a Tampa Bay fan, would you rather start the new season with Caleb Williams or paying Baker Mayfield $50-some million a year? That's a no-brainer. If you choose Baker Mayfield, I genuinely don't know what to say to you. So I think even Tampa has kind of set themselves up to be where they have some young guys, some old guys, some medium guys. It's a messy roster, which is with a quarterback that's not going to be good enough to lead the team, to victory, to Super Bowl victory, that is. So the Tampa Bay is going to be like a team where they're like, yeah, they're a team. You can't sleep on them. They might win a playoff game, but they're not beating Detroit. They're not beating the 49ers. They're not beating the Packers, okay? And when the Eagles kind of get their act together, they're not beating the Eagles, okay? Baker Mayfield's not better than Jalen Hurts, okay? Evans isn't better than A.J. Brown. So this idea that you're going to be able to do anything with Tampa Bay is kind of silly. So if you went and go do that with, say, the Patriots, you're spending money that you shouldn't be, and you're wasting other opportunity to just develop the team, where if you're smart and take your time, the Patriots could be a legit team in another year or two, right? They could be what the Packers are right now. So you just got to take your time and be smart.
He said he is hearing that the Patriots want to stockpile picks, not draft a quarterback. Move down once or twice, get picks. So, a lot of people are like, you've got to address the quarterback situation. I'm not so sure.
I got to pause this real fast, because he is those people. He is the guy that always says, you got to do everything to get the quarterback. You got to get the quarterback. You got to get the quarterback. You got to get the quarterback. What is his logic here?
First of all, this is not the Chargers with Harbaugh. You've got a lot of the pieces. Got to add a few. That's not what this is. It's a first-time NFL coach. No offensive weapons of note. Slowest receiving core in the league by a mile. They do not have elite tight ends, receivers, or backs. So I have no problem trading down once or twice, getting a tight end, getting a receiver, getting a left tackle, getting a more sustainable long-term running back. I have no problem with that. And giving Mac Jones with a competent offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, bounced around the league, but a competent, respected guy, giving him a year. So, again, you can all bang on Mac Jones. Go back to year one. This was pre-Belichick holding a grudge against him. He had a top 10 run game in New England and a good offensive coordinator. I'll show you some highlights from that year. He made the Pro Bowl. He was actually pretty good. He was. You forget it. Mac Jones in that year won more games than Justin Fields has in 3 in Chicago. He won 10 games in a division with Buffalo. Miami was pretty good. The Jets had the great defense. He won 10 games. He had a 7-game winning streak. And in that 7-game winning streak, he had a 106 passer rating. He kind of moved okay. Then he went from an elite offensive coordinator to Matt Patricia. Then Belichick decided to be petty and hold a grudge. They didn't hit on any of their wide receiver picks or tight end picks through free agency. Hunter Henry, okay. So I'm just saying, I've seen Mac Jones as a rookie. I'm showing you the highlights. He could play. He moved better. Then came the grudge. Then came a DC as the OC. Then an erosion of receiving and running back talent and the ability to consistently run the ball. The division got better. Buffalo got better. Miami got Mike McDaniels. Things have changed in the division. But I don't think that's a terrible idea. Move down, give Mac Jones 1 year, once again with a competent OC, somewhat of a running game. This team is not a quick rebuild. That's not what this is. This is 1 year of getting 12 picks, hitting on 8 of them, seeing if Mac can play a little. He was a Pro Bowler first year, won 10 games. In the better AFC, won 10 games. You saw the highlights. He was moving better. I'm just saying, you and I know this. What's better, giving Mac Jones legitimate pieces or getting Drake May with an empty cupboard and a defensive coach with no experience coaching? I'm just saying, I don't think it's a terrible idea by New England. If you move down and pick up a second and a fourth, all of a sudden you start looking at, because remember, if you get draft picks, Belichick no longer controls the draft. They have a real scouting department now. So I would presume, remember when Pete Carroll had a little too much say in Seattle's drafting for about a 6-year stretch? And Seattle's drafts went into the tank. And then John Snyder said, I'm out of here. I'm going to Detroit. And the owner of Seattle said, come back. You will control the draft. Back-to-back draft years for John Snyder. When he controlled the draft, they hit it out of the park. Hit on like...
Okay, well, so then the real question to me is this, though. If you think Drake May is better than Mac Jones, then you go out and get him. You sit him. You punt the next season. You still have some draft capital. You still have some, moves to make that you can do, that you can, continue to build your team here. And then you won't be good this coming season. So then you'll still be able to draft high again. And then you can then still make some moves where you then now can collect more players. That to me then would be the move. Because again, as Colin has said in the past, you always want the better quarterback. Having the better quarterback is going to put you in a better situation to win majority of the time. I mean, that's his whole thesis. That's his whole MO. Now, if you really want to say, listen, Mac Jones is actually a great quarterback, that he has just been with a tough old school coach who was not putting him in a position to succeed, and they had no players, and that you don't think that, that you think that Mac Jones is better than what's coming out of the draft or what you're able to get, then yeah, well then I of course would do that. So you have to really evaluate who do you think is going to be the better quarterback? Because at the end of the day, I would rather have the better quarterback. And you're right, because I don't want to have the better quarterback, but then just have no weapons, right? But that's only really harmful if you now are expecting to get that quarterback, start him right away, and do that. No one's saying you have to do that, okay? You can still make moves and even be aggressive. Draft the quarterback that you want. Let it know that this is not a quarterback competition. He is not playing, no matter what. Not even a fourth quarter. He is not playing. We are going to develop him. We are going to take our time. And we are not going to care if we win 5 games next season. In fact, we secretly hope that is what happens. And then you're going to have great draft capital the next season. Then by the time for whoever you end up drafting, whether it is Rick May or not, you then have your pieces around him for the following season. Like, it's hard. It's always hard to just say, okay, well, 2024 is just, we have to already sacrifice that year. And I'm never a huge fan of that because, to be clear, I'm not saying to tank necessarily, but it is also just understanding where you're at. You're not a Super Bowl team this season, and you may not be a Super Bowl team the next season. So you have to figure out what's the fastest path to get there. And again, we saw what the Broncos did. Disaster. Okay? Or, as I said at the top, you could take a Tampa Bay way about doing it, and you're like, okay, but now you're just kind of like average, slightly above average, and great, you're going to be slightly above average for the next 3-4 years. I don't want that. So if you think Drake May can actually be a legit dog in the NFL and will be a legit quarterback, well, then you get him, and then you figure out the rest later. And again, I think then sitting him for the year would be, not necessarily a terrible thing. Not to mention is you can keep Mac Jones, have him play, and if he actually ends up playing better, then you'll get pieces for him as well. And if he's not, then, again, really they know more who Mac Jones is, whether or not he is a good quarterback or not. But this is the problem without having an offensive head coach. I'm such a broken record with this because if they had a true, trusted offensive head coach in there, they would be able to already know and evaluate Mac Jones is not the guy. I can't win with him. Get him out of here. He's Jimmy G. Get him out of here. He's Russell Wilson. Get him out of here. I don't care that we paid $200 million for him. Get him out of here. We need to get someone better. Andy Reid and Alex Smith. Alex Smith, I love you. You're such a great person. Upstanding human being. But Patrick Mahomes is here. We're getting you out of here. Those are the differences. But you always see these defensive head coaches linger on their quarterbacks. Mike Tomlin, Bill Belichick. You see this again and again and again. With the Titans, Mike Vrabel. You just always see these defensive head coaches just linger and linger and linger and linger with these quarterbacks that are clearly not good enough. Seattle, he just mentioned him. I can't think of his name right now. They always do that with these quarterbacks that are just not good enough. And then it just slows everything down. The offensive head coaches who you can really trust, they move on. They know, what, we need to get this guy. This guy's not good enough. This guy is good enough. He may not seem like it, but we can make it. We see the Shannon do that. Sean McVay do that. We see the great coaches, offensive coaches do that. So that is the biggest drawback that you have. You're trying to rebuild an offense with the defensive head coach at the helm. That doesn't always have the best track record. Granted, this is a different organization now than it was with Bill Belichick, but you definitely got to have the quarterback right. Again, people want to point now with, the Texans and C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud turned out to be an elite, amazing quarterback. And who knows if he's going to continue that trajectory. It may have just been a great year. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the second, third year. Not to mention, they clearly have a great up-and-coming OC who will most likely be within the next couple of years. Everyone's fighting to have him. They'll be talking about all season. He's definitely going to be able to have his pick as a head coach. Like, that's what they're going to say all year, all season. Not unlike what they did with Detroit and their OC. Not unlike what they did with the Eagles and Shane Steichen. So that's what it's going to be. So you need to get the offensive coordinator or the offensive head coach down. Otherwise, you are going to struggle to rebuild the Patriots. And Mac Jones isn't enough to necessarily overcome any of those issues. So you have to be careful. If you believe Mac Jones is actually legit and you think that he's actually could be better than the quarterbacks that you can draft, then yeah, I have no problem with that. But if you really think that he's not that good or that he's not as good, then draft him. Yes, your team won't be great, but don't put him out there. Don't say, hey, I know we don't have a lot of weapons and our offensive line's a little shaky and yeah, our OC is kind of a bounce around guy, but we'll get you figured out there. Don't put him out there. Don't do it. Do not do it. You get a Russell Wilson first year with the Denver Broncos, and then it just can spiral from there. It just can become an absolute disaster. So take your time and be smart, New England Patriots. But what do you guys think? Do you think they should keep Mac Jones, or do you think they should trade down or draft Drake May and just say move on from Mac Jones? Would absolutely love to hear your thoughts. I read every single comment, so if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, please let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.